When Battle of Gods first came out, one of the things that stood out to me was the new ship of Trunks and Mai. As a naive middle schooler at the time, I thought it was a very strange ship, but by the end of the film, I actually thought it was kind of cute, and to this day, I like it. But I can't deny the big elephant in the room. Mai is, in fact, old enough to be Trunks' mother. For those who don't know, Mai first appeared in Dragon Ball during the first arc as a member of the Pilaf gang. While Goku was 12 and Bulma was 16, Mai is around her 20s when she first appeared in the story, and was turned into a child by accident before Battle of the Gods. In said movie, she states she's 41, which isn't right either because Bulma claims she's 38, which implies Mai is much older than that. And to make this more disturbing, Trunks is about 12 years old. Yikes. Many fans have pointed out how creepy this is, and some argue that Mai is grooming Trunks. It's made even stranger in the future Trunks arc that we get a bizarre love square between future Trunks, future Mai, and present Trunks, with some, strange moments. Some fans argue that future Trunks and Mai are fine, because both are adults who come from an apocalypse where there's not that many options left, and only kid Trunks and Mai are an issue because Trunks is still a minor. Some argue it's just fiction. This is just a silly, weird ship that many are reading too much into. But grooming is a real problem in the real world, and should be treated as such. So, is Trunks and Mai problematic? It's complicated, so let me explain. I've seen a lot of arguments that if the genders were reversed, with Trunks as the girl and Mai a man, this would have never been made. But people forget, there's already a ship like this in Dragon Ball. Well, sort of. When Android 18 was kidnapped and turned into a cyborg, she was either a late teenager or a young adult, while Krillin was an adult at the time. He fell in love with her, even though she looked like a teenager. Hell, you could even make the argument she was still mentally a teenager, and yet she and Krillin still ended up getting married and had a kid together. And if you really think about it, since she is an android, she ages slower than a normal human. So Krillin could be in his 50s while 18 still appears young, just like how you see it in GT. So if you really think about it, Krillin has a forever appearing teenager for a wife.
Well, what is 18 supposed to do? Forever date young guys and break up with them? That would be weird.
You can literally use the same argument for Mai. Since she is stuck in a younger body, she doesn't really have much of a choice on who she can date. Should she be dating guys in their late 50s looking like this? Yeah, I think the guys she'd be attracting wouldn't be the nicest people in the world.
Well, 18 and Krillin's age gap isn't that big compared to Trunks and Mai. No other ship in Dragon Ball is as weird as them.
I agree. No other ship in Dragon Ball is as weird as them. But they are still weird. Chi-Chi marries an alien monkey who has no idea what marriage is and probably didn't know what sex was until their honeymoon. Bulma marries Vegeta, who was responsible for killing all her friends at one point. And again, Krillin marries a cyborg. These ships are supposed to be weird. The only normal ship in Dragon Ball has to be Gohan and Videl. And even that's funny, since Gohan ended up together with the daughter of the man who stole his victory from Cell. Even some side romances like Tien times Launch, Dr. Gero times Android 21, look that up, and Yamcha times Vidro?
Hey, those are just silly pairings. It happens all the time in TV shows.
Oh, and big age gaps aren't?
No!
Are you sure?
Huh?
We've seen romances that have bigger age gaps before. Kagome from Inuyasha is 15 years old, while Inuyasha is 200 years old.
Oh, sorry, Inuyasha, you guys can't be together because you're old enough to be Kagome's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Or how about Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid? Kobayashi is 25 years old, while Toru is 500 years old. That's a lot of greats. We also have ships like Katara and Aang, with Aang being 112 years old, and Marco times Star, with Marco mentally being a 31-year-old man dating teenagers.
Wait a minute, they might be physically 100 years old, but mentally they're young, so it's okay.
But you still have minors and young adults dating someone who's centuries older than them and are old enough to be their ancestors. Hell, maybe even know their ancestors. So why does this get a pass, but this doesn't? Should Mai just wait 100 more years for this to be okay? I thought about it for a while, and I think I know why people are creeped out by this ship. Many of the other romances that I mentioned happened with late teenagers, while Trunks was still a kid. And even in these romances between a teenager and a 150-year-old is unsettling, it will never happen because, well, it's impossible. No one can live up to 500 years old like Toru, or 200 like Inuyasha. So we as the viewers can recognize the fantasy angle in these romances. Trunks and Mai's age gap is still realistic and unfortunately can happen in real life. That's why people bring up the fact Mai is old enough to be Trunks' mom constantly. And that's why this ship is seen as pedophilic. Because unfortunately, this can and has happened in real life. And thankfully, we are not okay with this as a society. So is that it? Is Trunks and Mai a problematic ship that causes more harm than good? Well, let's look at the actual couple themselves and the show they're in. In Battle of Gods, it's not Mai who falls in love with Trunks, it's actually Trunks who falls in love with her. When Trunks asks Mai to pretend to be his girlfriend, she actually says she doesn't like boys his age, until Trunks points out they're the same age. Then when she asks what she would have to do, she freaks out on the idea of holding hands with him, exclaiming how kids are now perverts these days. Holding hands is considered pervy for Mai. Really think about that. If hand-holding is too much for her, then I don't think she's going to react well to Tier 15. In fact, they keep that theme even in the future Trunks saga, with Trunks and Mai only really holding hands. They kissed one time, and it was Trunks who did it, who is already an adult and did it to save her life. Kid Trunks and Mai haven't really done stuff like that. Yeah, Trunks has a crush on her, but Kid Mai seems disinterested. Heck, even in the current manga, present Mai and Trunks aren't an official couple yet. Yeah, they live together, but they're still not a couple after all these years. And if romance does start to bloom, it's usually because Trunks instigates it, not Mai. It's only their adult counterparts that seem more open to romance, and even then, it's usually done very mild. And I would argue has very sweet moments, which we don't see a lot of in Dragon Ball, even in our married couples. So is Trunks and Mai a problematic couple? Personally, I don't think so. I see them the same way as I see Inuyasha and Kagome, or Toru and Kobayashi. But I understand why others would. It's a weird couple, alright, even for Dragon Ball standards. But like a lot of these ships in Dragon Ball, there's just something more to them. Also, I find it hypocritical that the same fandom ships Trunks and Pan and Goku and Caulifla more and only thinks this is creepy. They don't even talk to each other!